Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Bachelor Nation News fans. Although The Bachelor Season 29 was successful for Grant Ellis, and after originally feeling like he was deceptive to everyone, including Juliana Pasquarosa, I've changed my mind and think he was being true to himself with his decision at the end of the season. Throughout The Bachelor Season 29, it was clear that Grant was struggling to figure out what he wanted out of the experience. While Grant wasn't certain about what he was going to do or who he was going to choose until the end of the road, Juliana knew what she was looking for the whole time. Juliana, who was born and raised in Massachusetts, was hopeful about Grant from the beginning of The Bachelor. While Juliana wasn't entirely certain when she met the ex-professional basketballer turned day trader, Grant's time getting to know her on The Bachelor made it clear that he was who she was looking for. Throughout the season, Juliana's social media presence made her tough to root for. But it was clear that her time on screen was different from what Bachelor Nation saw off-screen. Grant had a tough time coming to a conclusion, but I think he stayed true to his gut. As a people-pleaser by nature, Grant struggled to see any of the women hurt by his actions. Throughout The Bachelor Season 29, Grant's behavior was called into question multiple times. While Grant was a great guy throughout The Bachelorette Season 21, where he dated Jen Tran until the week before hometown dates, it became clear that he was having a difficult time when it came to his own season. Though he didn't stop being a great guy by any means, Grant struggled to keep himself afloat with all the rejection he had to deliver to the women of his season. As a people-pleaser by nature, Grant struggled to see any of the women hurt by his actions. Grant was a people-pleaser throughout the season, which was never more clear than when he was facing a rose ceremony. As Grant moved through his season, he developed connections with some women while struggling to connect with others. Grant was able to move through the first episodes fairly seamlessly, but he quickly became cognizant of the women he was letting go of, feeling more pain as the season went on. By the time he got to the end of the season, Grant people-pleased Litia Garr all the way to the final, not wanting to hurt her feelings with rejection. Litia probably feels like she was tricked. Although Grant became one of the more difficult parts of The Bachelor Season 29 toward the end, it felt clear that he was going to choose Litia over Juliana to Bachelor Nation for weeks ahead of the final. Grant and Litia's connection seemed to be completely solidified as he got closer and closer to having to make his big decision, and it appeared that Litia also felt confident in her relationship with the Bachelor star. Instead of Grant choosing her and propsing at the end, however, Litia was left shocked and heartbroken when he ended things swiftly and chose Juliana. As the final episode of The Bachelor Season 29 came to a close, Litia was gearing up to give Grant a piece of her mind about what had transpired between them during the final. During the live finale aftershow, Litia questioned Grant's decision about letting her go because of the way he'd spoken to her as recently as the night before the final. Sharing that Grant had led her to believe that she was going to be his final choice, Litia made it clear that she was shocked by his choice and found herself questioning Grant's character in the aftermath. Will Grant really marry Juliana? As The Bachelor Season 29 came to a close, Grant chose Juliana, proposed, and the two have begun their descent into happily ever after. Unfortunately, Grant and Litia's shocking end and Grant's surprise with Juliana shook Bachelor Nation to its core, which meant it took some time for viewers of the show to process what they'd just seen. As Grant and Juliana have been moving forward, Bachelor viewers have had a hard time wrapping their mind around the fact that the couple are happily engaged and making moves toward marriage. Although I think Grant made the right decision with Juliana now, I do wonder if the couple will ultimately make it down the aisle. I think Grant and Juliana are on two somewhat different timelines, as Grant started The Bachelor certain that he was ready to jump headfirst into a major commitment. Now, I'm not so sure that he's prepared for marriage in the way he thought he was. On the other hand, Juliana was likely less certain about marriage, but now that she's engaged, I think she's ready. With the pair on two different pages,
anything
fell
is
on The
possible.
Bachelor Season 29. Audiences were left stunned by the heart-wrenching conclusion that saw fan favorite Litia Garr blindsided in the finale and Juliana Pasquarosa grappling with accusations that she stole Grant Ellis' heart. But in the weeks since, a new narrative has emerged, one that paints a far more complicated and maybe even sympathetic picture of Grant Ellis, the man caught in the eye of a media storm. Did he really deceive both women? Or did things simply spiral out of control in a way he couldn't have anticipated? Let's dive into the shocking truth behind the scenes, because what really happened might just change your mind about Season 29's leading man. A tale of two frontrunners. From the very first cocktail party, Litia Garr and Juliana Pasquarosa stood out. Litia was vibrant, emotionally open, and had a fierce authenticity that fans quickly connected with. Juliana, meanwhile, was composed, elegant, and fiercely private, drawing Grant in with a quiet intensity. Throughout the season, Grant seemed torn between these two women. But now, sources close to production are coming forward to reveal the shocking inner conflict Grant was dealing with all along. He wasn't playing a game, a former producer shared under the condition of anonymity. What people didn't see was how overwhelmed he felt by the pressure to choose right. He genuinely cared for both women. He didn't intend to hurt either. The final weeks, mixed signals or mixed emotions? As the final episodes aired, viewers saw Grant reassuring Litia with phrases like, "You're the one I see a future with," and "I can't imagine leaving here without you." Those words gave Bachelor Nation hope, until he shockingly proposed to Juliana instead. Litia left in tears, Juliana seemed confused, and fans were furious. But was it all a cold betrayal? Insiders now say Grant's behavior was less manipulation, more emotional paralysis. He was encouraged to explore both relationships deeply, the source revealed. But what people don't realize is, the show is edited to make it seem like he had made up his mind. In reality, he went into that final week completely conflicted. There were moments where he leaned toward Litia, and others where he felt closer to Juliana. It was agonizing for him. The fantasy suite fallout. Much of the backlash stems from the fantasy suite dates, particularly with Litia. She reportedly told Grant that she was in love with him, and he reciprocated, fueling expectations. But in interviews after the finale, Litia hinted that something changed after that night. "I felt something shift," she said on a podcast appearance, "and I didn't know why. We went from being in sync to distant." That shift, according to a second insider, had more to do with off-camera pressure than personal feelings. There was a lot going on behind the scenes, they said. Grant started to panic about choosing based on chemistry versus compatibility. That pressure took a toll. His connection with Litia was real, but he started questioning if it could last outside the show. Juliana's role, unintentional saboteur. While Litia's fans accused Juliana of being a calculating manipulator, the truth might be far less sinister. She had no idea Grant was still saying those things to Litia, a friend of Juliana's claimed. She was actually hesitant about accepting the proposal because she could feel his uncertainty. In fact, Juliana reportedly confronted Grant the night before the proposal, asking if he was absolutely sure. He said yes, but she didn't believe it. Not really, the friend revealed. She just hoped they'd figure it out later. Did production intervene? Some Bachelor Nation sleuths believe Grant was pressured to propose to Juliana to manufacture drama. And a recently leaked email between a crew member and a producer only fuels that theory. The email, which has since gone viral, suggested that Grant's hesitancy needed to be resolved before filming wraps, adding that Juliana is the logical final pick for long-term storytelling. In other words, was Grant guided to choose Juliana for narrative reasons? While no one from ABC has confirmed this, multiple past contestants have spoken about producer manipulation. with some even alleging emotional coercion during critical moments. Grant speaks, "I didn't know how to do it right." In his first post-final interview, Grant Ellis finally addressed the controversy, and his words surprised many. "I didn't mean to mislead anyone," he said, visibly emotional. "I genuinely loved both women, and I probably wasn't ready for how hard the final decision would be." He continued, "I told Litia how I felt in the moment, and I meant it, but those moments didn't add up to a final decision until the very end. And by that time, I had to make a call that broke someone's heart. I hate that." Litia's response, "He was just lost." Despite the heartbreak, Litia Garr has taken the high road in recent interviews, even going as far as defending Grant. "I don't think he tricked me on purpose," she told Bachelor Happy Hour. "I think he was just lost, and when you're that unsure, you end up hurting everyone." She added, "I wish he had been more honest with himself earlier, but I also understand he didn't have all the answers." Fans were stunned by Litia's grace, and many say it only proves she was the most mature contestant on the show. Juliana today, still fighting for her relationship. Juliana and Grant have stayed together post-show, but not without challenges. Social media followers notice they've taken multiple breaks from posting photos together, and Juliana was recently seen vacationing solo in Tulum. Yet both continue to insist they're working through things. She's trying to trust that she wasn't the second choice, a close friend shared. "It's not easy, but she believes in the connection they had and still have." Juliana herself addressed the criticism during a live Q&A. "It's hard to love someone who's still figuring themselves out, but it's harder to walk away from something real." Bachelor Nation reacts. Reactions to the evolving story have been mixed. While some fans continue to criticize Grant, others are reevaluating their stance. One Redditor posted, "Okay, maybe he's not a villain, just a guy who cracked under pressure. Doesn't make it right, but makes it human." Another wrote, "Honestly, the real villain might be the editing. They made it seem like Grant was 100% sure about Litia, and then flipped out of nowhere. Maybe he was always confused, and we just didn't see that." Even former bachelors weighed in. Season 25's Matt James commented, "Being in that position is no joke. I can't imagine having to choose between two incredible women on camera. Cut the guy some slack." What happens now? Insiders close to the franchise say producers are already trying to recruit Litia as the next Bachelorette, a move many fans support wholeheartedly. "She's got the poise, the personality, and the fanbase," one insider said. "And after the way she handled herself, America is rooting for her." As for Grant and Juliana, their future remains uncertain. But for now, the couple seems committed to working through their issues, even if it means facing more criticism. Final thoughts, misguided or malicious? Was Grant Ellis a villain, or simply a flawed, emotionally overwhelmed man trying to navigate an impossible situation? While it's tempting to place blame, the truth appears to lie somewhere in the messy middle. His words to both women may have been real in the moment. His proposal, perhaps rushed, and his journey, unquestionably imperfect. But if we judge reality TV stars by their worst moments, we miss the complexity of what they experience behind the cameras. One thing is certain, The Bachelor Season 29 will go down as one of the most emotionally turbulent and divisive in franchise history. And as more truth comes to light, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Grant Ellis didn't trick Litia or Juliana on purpose, but in the end, everyone got hurt.